Doing well today. It is Monday, December 6th, 2021, and we are live. Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It's been a very busy day, and I was on Brenda Hill's show, who was right before me on Monday. She's on 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. I was on her show for an hour and a half today, and we were dealing with history and current events. So we broadcasted that on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and then also on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF on their Facebook page. The broadcast is there as well. You can go back and watch that also. So we had a good discussion, talked about a lot of history, everything from Rosa Parks to Reese Taylor, to the Casual Killing Act of 1669, to William Billy Lee, who was the personal servant, personal valet of George Washington. He was a slave, but he wore a turban because actually on the Mount Vernon plantation, George Washington allowed the slaves also to practice Islam. And there's information at mountvernon.org that talks about life on the Mount Vernon plantation. So some very interesting information there. Okay, so on today's show, I posted an article from the independent.co.uk, and this was an article from today. And it's about Barbados. It's about Barbados. Now, you know, we talked about Barbados last week, Tuesday. We talked about it on our November 30th show, Tuesday, November 30th. Barbados cuts ties with Queen Elizabeth II, and Barbados removed Queen Elizabeth as head of state. All right. Well, now Barbados is going to build a slave museum to deal with the history of slavery. Okay, Barbados to build a slave museum after cutting ties with British monarchy. All right, so this is some big news here, and it's going to document the history of slavery there in Barbados. And we know that Great Britain refuses to pay reparations for slavery to Jamaica, to Barbados, to other colonies that they had colonized and enslaved, and they won't even give an official apology. All right, so we're going to talk about this story. This is some big news here. And then also in the news today, we'll give a brief update on the Oxford High School shooting. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials are under consideration. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials are under consideration. Okay, so we're going to give you an update on what's taking place there. We know that Oakland County prosecutor Karen McDonald did 2 national interviews between yesterday and today, and this investigation continues. We talked about this extensively on our Sunday show when we're on for 2 hours. Okay, so we'll discuss that, and then the Department of Justice today. I watched the press conference, and I was so busy. I was busy editing video. I did not get a chance to share the press. Well, we posted a couple articles about the press conference. Usually with these press conferences, I share them live on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and my personal page, Michael Imhotep. So you can see these press conferences live, and we can see how politics impacts every aspect of our lives, and get a better understanding of how these laws and policies, et cetera, impact us. So there was a press conference that the Attorney General Merrick Garland had today, and this deals with Texas and suing Texas over the redrawing the voting map in Texas. And the Department of Justice is echoing what many civil rights activists and voting rights activists have been saying. They've been saying that the new map in Texas discriminates against African Americans and Latinos. Okay, so we're going to discuss this as well today. There was a good article from Associated Press on this also, as well as NBC News. Okay, so that was an announcement, the lawsuit being filed against Texas today. The Justice Department sued Texas over new redistricting maps Monday, saying the plans discriminate against the very Black and Latino voters who have fueled the state's population boom. The maps discriminate against the very African American and Latino voters that have fueled the state's population boom. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts. You control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. All right. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can register for the online courses that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. As well, we have the information there at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, I want to jump into this first topic here. This deals with Barbados. And, you know, we talked a lot about Barbados last week. This is an article here from the Independent. And I saw this morning. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, and it's gotten over 1,000 likes. Barbados to build museum after cutting ties with British monarchy. Barbados to build museum after cutting ties with British monarchy. The island of Barbados has the second largest collection of slave records after the United Kingdom. Okay. And we see here Prime Minister Mia Mottley. We see here in this picture. So Barbados is to build a transatlantic slavery museum with the largest collection of British slave records outside of the UK. The island's prime minister has announced days after the country cut ties with the British monarchy to become a republic. And we covered this story last week. Now, the facility designed by the British architect Sir David Adjaye will include a research institute dedicated to telling the story of slavery and its global impact. It will include a research institute dedicated to telling the story of slavery and its global impact. And one of the things that's really important about this is to tell the history of slavery from the perspective of the descendants of those who were enslaved, as opposed to from the perspective of the enslavers' descendants. Now, it is expected to be situated at Newton Slave Burial Ground in Christ Church, just outside the capital of Bridgeton, which is the largest and earliest slave burial ground discovered in Barbados. Sir David will also design a memorial commemorating these victims. Okay, Sir David will also design a memorial commemorating these victims. Okay, we're coming up here on a break soon, so we're going to continue this here. Now, early this week, Prince Charles acknowledged the atrocity of slavery in a speech given at the inauguration of Barbados, new president, Sandra Mason, who replaced the Queen as head of state. Now, and we played the excerpt of the ceremony, and you heard Prince Charles talk about the atrocity of slavery. Okay. Now, he didn't talk about reparations for the atrocity of slavery. I guess he thinks African people have just healed from it. Okay. He didn't talk about the billions of dollars that Great Britain gained from enslaving African people in Jamaica and Barbados, etc. He didn't talk about that at all. Now, announcing the plans for the museum, Prime Minister Mia Mottley said, quote, "This week, Barbados set out on a new part of the journey. This week, Barbados set out on a new part of the journey. The most important gift we can give our people and our children at this time is that sense of confidence and understanding of who we are." Okay. And this is extremely important. A people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past and the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. And this is why you hear me say what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Okay. She said, "This week, Barbados set out on a new journey. The most important gift we can give our people and our children at this time is that sense of confidence and understanding of who we are." End quote. We're going to continue this on the other side of the break. We'll talk about these other stories as well. Barbados to build slavery museum after cutting ties with British monarchy. And this deals with self-determination and controlling the images of yourself also. I'm Michael Imhotep. You listen to the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. African Spirit Cards specialize in the design and printing of high-quality African-centered note cards and stationery. African Spirit Cards breeds and rejoices in the African and African American experiences. They honor our African heritage in all that they do for you by proudly displaying the great motifs and ornamentations of the African world diaspora. They use African images, African proverbs, and many African languages to fully immerse their clients in the wisdom and history of and the connection to Africa. They understand the importance of having images around us that reflect who we are. These images also illustrate where we came from and what we desire to be. They are here to serve you. Follow them on Instagram at African Spirit Cards, that's African with a K. They have a wide selection. Check out their holiday selection at Etsy.com/shop/African Spirit Cards. That's Etsy, ETSY. You can give them a call at 313-995-3579, 313-995-3579. You can email them at janeldesigns@africanspiritcards.com. That's JANAL designs@africanspiritcards.com and place your order today.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that is traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
What show we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, December 6, 2021, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. African American History Month is coming up. Dr. King Day, Kwanzaa, Women's History Month in March. You've got Juneteenth in June. So email me. We can set it up. You can also give me a call, 313-462-0003. We have it at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, 313-462-0003. And I can speak at churches, schools, etc. for your organization. You can still register for the online courses that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. In Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We have a special bundle pack. You can register for both classes, which is a $260 value. You can register for both of them for only $70. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content. You can join us live in class on Saturdays and Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Let's continue. In those classes, I can teach them, I can modify them, and we can teach them to your group, organization, your church, et cetera, et cetera. We can do it in person or virtually. So contact me. Okay, right before the break, we were talking about what's going on in Barbados. Okay, now this is a follow-up to the story from last week, Tuesday, that we dealt with, where Barbados became a republic and severed ties with Queen Elizabeth II. Okay, this is a continuation of that. Now Barbados is going to build a slavery museum. Okay, and this is something that's monumental, because this is the descendant of enslaved Africans telling their own story. Okay, this is the descendant of enslaved Africans telling their own story, which is extremely important. If you missed our broadcast last Tuesday, where we dealt with Barbados cutting ties with Great Britain, you can check out the rebroadcast of our shows. Follow us on Facebook, The African History Network, and on YouTube, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. And we have those shows archived there also. Read this article here from NBC News. This is from November 29th, November 30th, 2021. Barbados cuts ties with Queen Elizabeth II, becomes a republic in a dazzling ceremony. Okay. Now, if you go back to this piece here from the Independent about the Slave Museum. Now, let's see here. Okay. So we know Prince Charles last week said that he talked about the atrocity of slavery when he was at the ceremony where Barbados became a republic. And as I said before the break, he did not mention reparations. Okay, he mentioned slavery, but not reparations. Now, describing the building of the Slave Museum as a labor of love, Prime Minister Mia Mottley said the project is scheduled for completion by 2025 at the latest, and expected to be partially funded by entities beyond the Barbados government. Expected to be partially funded by entities beyond the Barbados government. Now, the museum will include public displays of original manuscripts, ledgers, and photographs of materials, along with a large climate-controlled open storage section, major event spaces with anticipated research partnerships between the Caribbean University of the West Indies, UWI, the Caribbean University of the West Indies, with U.S. Academic institutions and Harvard University and the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art. The Smithsonian National Museum of African Art. Okay. Now, and let me flip back over here. So this is huge news, and this is them controlling their own narrative and telling their own story. Power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Okay. Power, coming from the Latin word potere, meaning to be able. Power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Now, Ingrid Thompson, chief archivist at the Barbados Archives, at the Barbados Archives Department, said, as we engage with these records and unearth the many stories in the current format, and future state, it is believed on the heels of republicanism, a new national consciousness will emerge among our people, which can only be done to the benefit of all. Okay, which can only be done to the benefit of all. Now, the department holds slavery records dating back to 1635, which will soon be digitized for preservation purposes. Now, by tapping into the heritage economy, it is hoped that this will lead to economic development, creation of expansive job opportunities for Barbadians in sectors ranging from cultural tourism to technological innovation. By tapping into the heritage economy, it is hoped that this will lead to economic development, creation of expansive job opportunities for Barbadians in sectors ranging from cultural tourism to technological innovation. So this is huge. And this is Barbados being able to profit from preserving their history and telling the story. Just like in Egypt, Arabs profit from tourism, going to see the pyramids and going to see Harem Akhet, the Sphinx, and the temples, things like this. And they didn't build that stuff. Well, this is African people here in Barbados being able to preserve the history and tell the story of their ancestors and their own people, and to profit from this as well. Now, Sir David said, quote, this project is really at the heart of why I was inspired to become an architect. That stories, structures, and monuments that really define our worlds, which have been devoid of stories of people of the diaspora of Africa, need in the 21st century to emerge. Okay, need in the 21st century in the diaspora to emerge. Now, Dr. Kevin Farmer, Deputy Director of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, said, quote, this allows us a space to pay homage to our ancestors. This allows us a space to pay homage to our ancestors, to acknowledge their sacrifice as a part of an insidious system of forced migration that changed the world and their enduring legacy for future generations is of critical importance to the continued construction of national identity in this age of republic. Okay. For future generations is of critical importance to the continued construction of national identity in this age of republic. Now, I want to go to this piece here we looked at last week, and this is from the BBC.com, and this deals with a timeline of history for Barbados. Barbados profile timeline. We want to look at this here quickly. Hold on, let me try to pull this up. I thought we had this. Let's try it again. So we know in 1627, Captain Henry Powell lands a party of English settlers who establish a colony, which they then develop as a sugar plantation economy using slaves brought in from Africa. And let's go to, do we have it here? Let's pull this up in a second. This is from BBC. I'm going to pull this up and show this profile timeline. Okay. Now, 1536, the Portuguese were there before the English. Okay. Now, 1536, Portuguese explorer Pedro a Campos visits the island, but it's going to be colonized by the British, and they're going to set up sugarcane plantations. Okay. And it's going to generate untold wealth for the British. 1627, Captain Henry Powell lands a party of English settlers who establish a colony. 1639, Barbados' first parliament, the House of Assembly, holds its first meeting. 1663, Barbados is made into an English crown possession. 1816, you have African slaves who stage a revolt there in Barbados. 1834, we know that Great Britain abolishes slavery in their British colonies. Check this out here for more history on Barbados. Barbados profile timeline. This is from BBC.com. Okay, you listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by.
(910), the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, December 6th, 2021. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, so right before the break, we were talking about this story here from the independent.co.uk, Barbados to build slavery museum after cutting ties with the British monarchy. So it's a great story. Check that out. It's dealing with us telling our own history as well. African people of African descent, telling our own story also, in teaching future generations. Now, I want to go to this next story here, and we're going to go to clip number 1, Shakita. So we've been following this story dealing with the shooting at Oxford High School here in Michigan. And Oxford, Michigan is about 30 miles north of Detroit. So we've been following these different developments, and we had extensive coverage of this on our Sunday show because we're on for 2 hours on Sunday. So criminal charges against Oxford High School officials are under consideration. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials are under consideration. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald has charged 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley as an adult with murder and attempted murder in last week's tragic school shooting. Now, Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald has charged his parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, with involuntary manslaughter, as evidence shows they bought their son a 9mm 6-hour semi-automatic handgun as a Christmas present. It was purchased November 26th, day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, as a Christmas present that was used in the school shooting. Now, the prosecutor confirms she is looking at the actions of Oxford High School counselors and administrators for their actions as well. Okay, now I want to go to this clip here. This is from WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials under consideration. Let's go to clip 1, Shakita. Okay. Well, clip 2. Go to clip. Let's go to clip 2. Clip 2 is a YouTube video of the same topic. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials under consideration. Let's go to clip 2.
Mourning the loss of 4 students, of course, there are also new questions surrounding the actions the school took before the tragedy, specifically after a meeting with Ethan Crumbley and his parents. Our Team 7 coverage continues now with 7 Action News reporter Jim Kurtzner, who has been looking into the possibility of charges against school officials. Jim, what have you learned?
Carolyn, the prosecutor here says she will make her charging decision against school officials after the ongoing investigation is over. But this morning, she was pretty outspoken on 2 national news broadcasts.
There was absolutely evidence to suggest that there was an indication he might harm somebody and even kill somebody. We haven't ruled out charging anyone. The evidence is Ethan Crumbly was reported by a teacher on Monday, the day before the shooting, that he was looking at ammunition on his cell phone in class. Prosecutor says the child explained that was a family hobby. On Tuesday, just a couple of hours before the shooting, another teacher found him with a drawing of a gun a student shot twice, a bullet, and the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Please help me. Blood everywhere. My life is useless. The world is dead." That was reported to the office. The teacher took a picture of it. The parents were called to the school. By then, much of the drawing had been scratched out. The parents refused to take Ethan home. He was allowed to return to class. And in this case, a lot could have been done different. I mean, that meeting, he was allowed to go back to school.
The prosecutor has charged both parents with involuntary manslaughter for buying their son a handgun as a Christmas present, allowing him to have access to it, and not reporting it to the school in that meeting. Same charges could come against school officials.
She'd be looking at the same charges she leveled against the parents, and that's involuntary manslaughter. And then she'd have to prove that the school officials were grossly negligent, pretty much being able to prove that they knew or should have known that this young man was going to do these horrific things.
Another prosecutor in the Republican Party takes a different view.
Based on the small amount that I know, it's a slippery slope to start charging school officials. And the reason why is I think that needs to be played out in a civil arena and not the criminal arena.
The Oxford superintendent, in a detailed letter to the district over the weekend, said in part, given the fact that the child had no prior disciplinary infractions, the decision was made he would be returned to the classroom rather than sent home to an empty house. These incidents remained at the guidance counselor level and were never elevated to the principal or assistant principal's office. The Michigan Education Association is the union representing teachers and counselors at Oxford High School.
Right now, the goal needs to be to deal with their trauma and the trauma of their students in that community. That has to be our priority. You know, investigations need to happen. We need to look at the systems involved. And as I said, everyone involved is going to rethink everything from Tuesday for the rest of their lives.
As we've been reporting, the Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard has told us repeatedly he has a liaison officer inside Oxford High School who was not called into that meeting on Tuesday morning, just a couple of hours before the shooting. Live in Pontiac tonight, Jim Curson, 7 Action News.
All right, Jim, a lot of tough questions. Thank you so much for that live report.
Okay, pause it right there. Okay, so that was from Channel 7 WXYZ from Monday, December 6, 2021. Now, and this is Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard. Read the article we talked about on yesterday's show. School district releases details of key events leading up to Michigan shooting, which gives more of a timeline of what happened. And Tim Thorne, who's the Oxford Community School District superintendent, released this letter that gave more information and more details about what happened at the school leading up to the shooting. Okay, so you can read that. Now, if we go back here quickly to this piece here from WXYZ Channel 7, criminal charges against Oxford High School officials under consideration. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald was on CNN this morning. She said there was absolutely evidence to suggest that there was an indication he might harm somebody and even kill somebody. We have not ruled out charging anyone. Now, the evidence shows on Monday, the day before the shooting, which was Monday, November 29th, that Ethan Crumbley was reported to the office by a teacher who found him searching for ammunition on his cell phone. The prosecutor says Ethan explained it was a family hobby. All right, now, okay, so read the rest of this here. It gives a synopsis of the clip that you just heard. This is from Channel 7 WXYZ.com. Criminal charges against Oxford High School officials under consideration. Now, also, you have probably heard that there were a number of schools, at one point 60 schools in 12, actually over a dozen districts, had to shut down because of threats they were getting. Okay, death threat, threats to shoot up the school, etc. Okay, so a lot of those schools have opened back up. WXYZ has a article from today. Many metro Detroit schools reopened following dozens of threats last week after Oxford shooting. And we'll go to that on the other side of the break. Okay, we're coming up here on the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African-American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Kwanzaa is coming, and the TheAHNShow.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs. Order your Kwanzaa set today, which includes a kinara, candles, a mat, a cup, the African American flag, and a basket. Visit TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. They have kinara sets, which include a candle holder, candles, a mat, and a cup. Kwanzaa is December 26th through January the 1st. Add the early bird discount code for 10% off your order placed before November 28th. Visit TheAHNShow.com and place your order today. TheAHNShow.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs to celebrate this African American Pan-African holiday. TheAHNShow.com.
Black on Purpose Television Network. Yes, Black on Purpose Television Network. All black, all positive, all the time. The largest black-owned streaming television network in the world. Bringing our people together worldwide. Controlling our messages, our stories, our way. Black TV the way it should be. Black music, Black history, and more. 30 plus channels, thousands of shows. Black on Purpose Television Network. Subscribe now.
Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right. Right before the break, we were talking about giving an update on the Oxford High School shooting. And you probably have heard about a number of threats against schools that have been taking place in Michigan, and it's spreading to other states as well. But WXYZ Channel 7 reported today many Metro Detroit schools reopened following dozens of threats last week after Oxford shooting. All right. So this is from Monday, December 6, 2021. This morning, dozens of schools in Metro Detroit are reopening after they shut down to address a series of violent threats made on social media. Now, officials are calling the threats copycat attempts following the mass shooting in Oxford, Michigan, that left 4 students dead. At least 9 teachers at different schools in the area were arrested in connection to the threats, proving just how seriously police are taking this. Now, in Royal Oak, which is a suburb of Detroit, students won't return until Tuesday as staff members are taking Monday to brush up on safety protocols while police continue to investigate the long list of threats made in the area. Okay, so now Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said any wannabe copycat out there will be held accountable. He said, if you're making threats, we're going to find you. If you're making threats, we're going to find you. All right, so read the rest of this article here from WXYZ Channel 7. Many Metro Detroit schools reopen following dozens of threats last week after Oxford shooting. Okay, now I want to go to the story today from the Department of Justice. There was Merrick Garland, Attorney General, held a press conference today, and this deals with Texas redrawing the voting map, redrawing the district map. There was a good article here from Associated Press. Justice Department sues Texas over new redistricting maps. Okay, and this deals with the maps targeting African Americans and Latinos. All right, now I want to go to this clip here. This is from I want to go to this clip here. This is from the press conference today. Shakita, we're going to go to, which clip is this? This is clip number 4 from Meet the Press Daily. Let's go to clip number 4. DOJ sues Texas over voting rights violations.
I have both covered this extensively. A lot of folks in Texas, a lot of Democrats thought lawsuits against these maps would be inevitable. Indeed, there were some already filed, but now the Justice Department stepping in here. Can you explain to people the issue here, why Justice thinks that Latino voters in particular in Texas are having a raw deal in these maps?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers really tell you a strong story, is that 95% of Texas's huge population growth over the last 10 years came from Black and Hispanic voters. But the districts are very much supporting Republican voters, typically white voters, with just zero of these opportunity districts or majority-minority districts that often boost and help voters of color elect representatives of their choice. The fact that there are more, white majority districts or white plurality districts in these maps is what the Justice Department is taking issue with. The fact that they have not drawn in new Hispanic majority districts, that's pretty much an issue here. I mean, it's just 4 million people in Texas, pretty stunning numbers that sort of suggest there was, as they allege, intent to draw discriminatory maps. Now, you see they're going for discriminatory intent in this lawsuit. That's pretty indicative of how they're going to do it. Section 2, of course, was a little bit weakened by some of the recent Supreme Court rulings of the Voting Rights Act, but they're clearly going to be very proactive in how they police this.
Okay, now, Shakita, there's another clip here. There's a clip 4, and that sounded like clip 5. Go to clip that was the clip that was a minute 30 seconds. There should be clip number 4 that's like 3 minutes from MTP Daily. From MSNBC, there should be another one, clip number 4. That should be 4 minutes. I want to go to that one. Oh, 3 minutes, 3 minutes and some change. I want to go to that clip. And that should be from the press conference. Here, let me see. You should have that one. I'm gonna send it to you again. For some reason, it didn't come through. Just cue that one up. It's like 3 minutes. Okay.
Oral practice, minimize.
Yeah, that's it. Let it play.
Or cancels out the voting strength of members of a racial group or language minority group. When we issued that guidance, I noted that discriminatory redistricting schemes are illegal and that the department would assess jurisdictions' compliance with those laws during this redistricting cycle. The department's career voting law experts have assessed Texas's new redistricting plans and determined that they include districts that violate the Voting Rights Act. Last month, we filed a separate lawsuit against the state of Texas, alleging that Texas Senate Bill 1 improperly restricts the assistance voters who have a disability or who are unable to read or write can receive in the voting booth. Last week, we filed a statement of interest in Arizona litigation to explain that private plaintiffs had plausibly alleged that certain new voting laws in that state were passed with a discriminatory purpose. We also filed a statement of interest in Florida litigation explaining, among other things, that private parties can bring claims to enforce the Voting Rights Act. In all of these matters, we have carefully assessed the facts and the law before taking action. I am grateful to the dedicated staff of the voting section for their work today and every day to protect the right of all eligible citizens to vote. Before I conclude, I want to again urge Congress to restore the Justice Department's pre-clearance authority. Were that pre-clearance tool still in place, we would likely not be here today announcing this complaint.
The right to vote is foundational to our democracy, and the Justice Department is charged with protecting that right. Today, we are filing suit against the state of Texas based on our determination that Texas's 2021 redistricting plans violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The department reached that determination after a careful assessment of the facts and the law. I want to thank the career staff of the Civil Rights Division's voting section for their tremendous efforts on this investigation. Our complaint today alleges that the redistricting plans approved by the Texas state legislature and signed into law by the governor will deny Black and Latino voters an equal opportunity to participate in the voting process and to elect representatives of their choice in violation of the Voting Rights Act. Our complaint also alleges that several of those districts were drawn with discriminatory intent. Texas's 2021 redistricting plans were enacted through a rushed process with minimal opportunity for public comment, without any expert testimony, and with an overall disregard for the massive minority population growth in Texas over the last decade. Texas's population grew by 4 million people from 2010 to 2020, and 95% of that growth came from minority populations. Despite this significant increase in the number and proportion of eligible Latino and Black voters in Texas, the newly enacted redistricting plans will not allow minority voters an equal opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Instead, our investigation determines that Texas's redistricting plans will dilute the increased minority voting strength that should have developed from these significant demographic shifts.
All right. Okay, so that was from the press conference today. Read this article here from NBC News. Justice Department sues Texas over GOP drawn voting maps. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the state's new maps, quote, deny or abridge the rights of Latino and Black voters. Okay, those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We'll keep going for a few more minutes here. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Remember, right now is correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Okay, stand by, everybody. Stand by. We want to wish a happy birthday also to Marnice Jackson of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Happy birthday to Marnice. Now, if we look at this article here very quickly, the Justice Department sued Monday in federal court, challenging Texas Republicans' plan for redrawing congressional and state legislative districts based on new census figures. Now, the lawsuit alleges that the state's new maps, in violation of the Voting Rights Act, quote, deny or abridge the rights of Latino and Black voters to vote on account of their race, color, or membership in a language minority group, end quote, Attorney General Merrick Garland said at a news conference today. Now, the maps were drawn with discriminatory intent in some places, in a rushed process, and with an, quote, overall disregard, end quote, for the fact that Texas population growth has been driven almost entirely by Black and Hispanic residents, Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta said, speaking after Attorney General Merrick Garland. Okay, let me bring this back up here. Okay, there we go. Okay, the maps were drawn with discriminatory intent in some places, in a rushed process, and with an overall disregard for the fact that Texas population growth has been driven almost entirely by Black and Hispanic residents. Now, the suit asks the court to stop the state from using the new maps. The lawsuit asks the court to stop the state from using the new maps. Quote, our investigation that Texas redistricting plans will dilute the increased minority voting strength that should have developed from these significant demographic shifts. So a lot of this deals with, yes, Republicans are pushing the big lie, but behind that big lie is the fear of demographic pattern shifts that are taking place and white people quickly becoming a minority population in this country. And the 2020 census results show us this. This was the first time, the 2020 census results was the first time white people had a declining population in this country. Their population dropped by about, I think it was 2.7 million, something like that. But this was the first time since 1790, since the first census was taken, that the population of percentage-wise of white people in this country dropped below 60%. It dropped down to 57%. And I want to pull up this. We should have the article here from the Washington Post dealing with the census, results. So this, so they're trying to control the state legislatures, pass these voter restriction bills to suppress the African American vote, Latino vote, etc. And they want to do this in across the country. But then also, this will impact the presidential election, U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives, and they want to get back. Republicans want to gain back control of the Senate and the House in the midterm elections, then the presidency in 2024, and continue to put in place these conservative judges, lock down the U.S. Supreme Court, and continue to pass these oppressive laws, and continue to pass the laws dealing with critical race theory, etc. Because they see themselves becoming a minority population. Some white people, this doesn't bother them, but the Republicans, many of the Republicans, it does. They see themselves becoming a minority population, so they want to maintain control of the federal courts and the state legislatures, and then the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Okay, now, let me see if I can pull this one up here, dealing with the census. Post. right, this one right here. Census data shows widening diversity. Number of white people falls for the first time. Census data shows widening diversity. Number of white people falls for the first time. Now, this is from August 12th, 2021. Okay. And we're going to take a quick break and we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Soul in Motion, celebrating 38 years in the arts. This energetic ensemble of dancers and drummers was started by percussionist Michael Friend and is led by choreographer Associate Director Pam Lassiter. Based in the Washington, D.C. area, Soul in Motion is now accepting bookings for Black History Month, Juneteenth, and summer festivals in 2022. Soul in Motion is also available for more intimate events like naming ceremonies and weddings. To find out more or to book your date, call 240-452-1349 or send an email to info@soulinmotion.org. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Soul in Motion, celebrating our history, our culture, our future. Soul in Motion. Theater, African dance, and drumming since 1984.
Okay, you should be able to hear now. Okay, if we look at this here, Washington Post, census data shows widening diversity. Census data shows widening diversity. Number of white people falls for first time. So we see this from August 12, 2021, based upon the 2020 census. For the first race and ethnicity breakdowns for the 2020 census released Thursday show a more diverse population than ever in the nation's history. The report marks the first time the absolute number of people who identify as white alone has shrunk since a census started being taken in 1790. This is the first time that the population of white people dropped since 1790. The number of people identifying as non-Hispanic white and no other number dropped by 5.1 million people to 191.7 million. They decreased at 2.6%. They dropped by 5 million. The country also passed two more milestones on its way to becoming a majority minority society in the coming decades. For the first time, the portion of white people dipped below 60%. Slipping from 63.7% in 2010 to 57.8% in 2020. Okay, dropped to 57.8% in 2020. First time in history, the percentage of white people dropped below 60%. And the under 18 population is now majority people of color at 52.7%. Okay, 52.7%. So read this article. Census data shows widening diversity. Number of white people falls for first time. So this is why you have Republicans passing voter restriction bills, over 400 bills written, trying to get passed in state legislatures. This is why you have Republicans trying to take back control of the House of Representatives and the Senate. They want to shut down any progressive bills coming from Democrats, but also want to take back control of the presidency in 2024, pass more ultra-conservative judges, federal judges, lock down the U.S. Supreme Court, continue to pass voter restriction bills, continue to attack critical race theory in the state legislatures. And there's a fear that many white people have, not all white people, there's a fear that many white people have, especially many Republicans, of becoming a minority population very quickly in this country by 2043. So they want to control the federal bench for decades, control the U.S. Supreme Court. These are all lifetime appointments. The federal judgeships and the U.S. Supreme Court, these are all lifetime appointments. All right, so read the rest of this article here. Justice Department sues Texas over GOP drawn voting maps. NBCnews.com, December 6, 2021. And also in the article, it goes on to say, I want to again urge Congress to restore the Justice Department's pre-clearance authority. Attorney General Merrick Garland said Monday, were that pre-clearance tool still in place, we will likely not be here today announcing this complaint. Were that pre-clearance tool still in place today, we will likely not be here today announcing this complaint. And he's talking about the gutting of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act by Supreme Court case Shelby County versus Holder, 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case. Now, all this is connected because you needed the 1965 Voting Rights Act because of what happened in 1890 at the Mississippi State Convention, and the white county judge that presided over the convention, Solomon Saladin Calhoun, said, we are here to exclude the Negro. And what happened at the state convention in South Carolina in 1895, when they rewrote the state constitution and imposed poll taxes and literacy tests. This is the same thing that Mississippi did in 1890, and it became known as the Mississippi Plan, and it was adopted by other southern states, these former Confederate states, to suppress the African American vote. Okay, so Mississippi became the model, and here we see Georgia being the model, Texas being the model, and we see these boilerplate bills being written in Republican-dominated state legislatures across the country. This article right here, the Mississippi Plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. The Mississippi Plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. We came here to exclude the Negro. So this is about politics of the legal distribution of scarce wealth upon resources and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Just as they were suppressing the African-American vote after Reconstruction ended, and these white supremacists were taking back control of state legislatures, African-Americans were being voted out of the state legislatures. And in Mississippi, we were the majority population in Mississippi. The convention's president, Solomon Saladin Calhoun, a white county judge, put the voting issue bluntly. He said, let's tell the truth. If it burst the bottom of the universe, he said, we came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. We came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. This is 1890. And in the online course that I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, we get deep into this history and what happened with these state constitutions. Okay, and then we're going to continue to see this with Alabama 1901. We see this with Oklahoma, etc. Okay, and they're taking back control of the state legislatures, passing these voter restriction bills, and then they're going to have things like all white primaries, like in Texas, all right, to suppress the African American vote. Because of what happened in 1890 and 1895, 1898, that's why you needed the 1965 Civil Rights Act. Voting Rights Act. That's why you needed the 1965 Voting Rights Act, because of what happened after Reconstruction ended. Now, if we look at this article quickly here, then I have to get out of here. how Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African American vote for generations. This is from history.com. These are some of the things that we deal with in the class I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. In the wake of the passage of the 15th Amendment and Reconstruction, several Southern states enacted laws that restricted Black Americans' access to voting, and it's attacking the 15th Amendment, okay, putting obstacles in the way of the 15th Amendment. Mississippi's Jim Crow era laws then, after more than half a million African American men joined the voting rolls during Reconstruction in the 1870s, helping to elect nearly 2,000 African American men to public office. Okay, during Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, almost 2,000 African American men got elected to public office. We were in the House of Representatives. You had Hiram Rose Revels in the U.S. Senate out of Mississippi. Okay, and then after Reconstruction ends, we're going to see that wiped out in a matter of years. Mississippi led the way in using measures to circumvent the 15th Amendment. Mississippi's Jim Crow era laws then set a precedent for other Southern states to use the same tactics to assault Black enfranchisement for nearly a century until the passage of the Voting Rights of 1965. It was called the Mississippi Plan, which was instituted in 1890. They talk about it right here. Now, this is history.com, the official website of the History Channel, and they're breaking this down. 1890 Mississippi State Convention, what I just showed you from Washington Post. All this history is connected to laws and policies, which directly impacts where we are today. And we have to understand this history to understand where we need to go from here. At the 1890 Mississippi State Convention, a new constitution was adopted that included a literacy test and a poll tax for eligible voters. Under the new literacy requirement, a potential voter had to be able to read any section of the Mississippi State Constitution or understand any section when read to him, or give a reasonable interpretation of any section. All right, now, the impact of the legislation was swift. By 1910, registered voters among African Americans dropped to 15% in Virginia and under 2% in both Alabama and Mississippi. Okay, according to historian Donald G. Nyman, in his book Promises to Keep African Americans and the Constitutional Order, 1776 to the present. In 1898, in the Williams versus Mississippi U.S. Supreme Court ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the state's poll tax disenfranchisement clauses. The grandfather clause, which originates in 1898 out of Louisiana, Louisiana changes their state constitution, imposes the grandfather clause. So if your grandfather cannot vote before 1867 because he was a slave, then you can't vote. And they instituted the grandfather clause to get around poll taxes and literacy tests, because you had poor white people who couldn't read. You had poor white men who couldn't read. So they instituted the grandfather clause as an exception for poor white men who couldn't read, because they weren't trying to exclude them from voting for the most part. And literacy tests on the basis that the new Constitution, quote, did not discriminate between the races, and it has been shown that their actual administration wasn't evil, end quote, only that evil was possible under them, end quote. Now, the Williams versus Mississippi ruling of 1898 eased the implementation of voter suppression statutes in many other southern states, including Louisiana, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Virginia, and Georgia, all these former Confederate states that committed treason against the Union and took up arms to maintain slavery and went to war with the state, with the Union, just like the insurrectionists did January 6, 2021. January 6, 2021 was a continuation of the Civil War. Now, John B. Knox, an Alabama delegate to the state's 1901 convention, because in 1901, Alabama, they rewrite their state constitution to suppress African Americans. John B. Knox revealed the mindset of the white legislatures when he stated, quote, the convention's goal is to establish white supremacy in the state. This is what they said. They were very open with what they were doing. Okay, they were very open what they were doing. Solomon Saladin Calhoun in 1890 in Mississippi said, we're here to exclude the Negro. John B. Knox, 1901 in Alabama, he said the convention's goal is to establish white supremacy in the state within the limits imposed by the federal constitution, end quote. Now, while many of the voting suppression measures could also impact poor white people, they disproportionately impact African Americans. So you had literacy tests. Okay. You had poll taxes. All right. Now, this picture right here, for the first time since adoption of the state constitution in 1890, African American voters participate in the Mississippi Democratic primary. And we know it was Fannie Lou Hamer who was in Mississippi as well, fighting for voting rights also. Okay, now, while Southern legislatures claimed that poll taxes for voting were designed to raise state revenue, to many white political leaders, the main purpose was to suppress the African American vote. Quote, the newspaper believes in white supremacy. This newspaper believes in white supremacy, said a Tuscaloosa, Alabama news editorial in 1939. Quote, this newspaper believes in white supremacy, and it believes that the poll tax is one of the essentials for the preservation of white supremacy. They were very explicit in what they were doing. Today, the descendants of these white supremacists don't say white supremacy, but they exude white supremacy. And this is the same thing they did in the 1890s, early 1900s in state legislature. It's the same thing they're doing right now. 11 states, but they switched parties. It was the Democrats doing it now it's the Republicans. Because of the party realignment that started in 1928 with the Lily White movement in 1928. Okay. A lot of those segregationists, white supremacists left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party. And they're still there now, or the descendants are there. In the Lily White movement in 1928, that was the movement to push African Americans out of the Republican Party, ignore our needs, ignore the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. And Herbert Hoover was running for president in 1928 as the Republican candidate. And Republicans wanted to appeal to segregationist Democrats in 5 former Confederate states to get them to vote for the Republican Herbert Hoover. And this started the effort of African Americans migrating out of the Republican Party over to the Democratic Party because we found them more receptive to our issues. We migrate over slowly, but it goes back to 1928. By 1960, 2/3 of African Americans had already switched over to the Democratic Party. All right. And this is why I warned people, if you watched this show in 2016 during the presidential election, I warned our people. I said we had to stop Trump because I saw what was coming, because I understand history. I saw what was coming. If you understood Richard Nixon in 1968, and you understood Governor George Wallace, Alabama, in 1963, Donald Trump was a combination of George Wallace and Richard Nixon. Okay, so then they talk about all white primaries, like the all white primaries in Texas, all this stuff, obstacles to the 15th Amendment, where their descendants are doing the same thing now in the state legislatures. This is why they have to be stopped. This is why they have to be voted out of office. Now, if our vote didn't matter, why did they go to all this trouble to rewrite the state, to have state constitutions, to have state conventions, rewrite these state constitutions, go through all these trouble, impose poll taxes, literacy tests, all this stuff. Then sue in the U.S. Supreme Court, Shelby County versus Holder 2013. If our vote didn't matter, what go through rewriting the district lines in Texas and Georgia, all this stuff, if voting doesn't matter. They understand the impact of this, and they understand the importance of suppressing the African American vote more than we understand the power of our vote and how elections have consequences. All right. So look, I got to get out of here. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. You can register for the online courses that I teach on the weekends, because if you like this type of information in classes, we go deeper into this, and I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all of that. So it's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And each class we go through and analyze about a 10-year period of history, okay, and go through history chronologically. This is our official Cash App account, $, the AHN Show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Now, and then at our website, we have the online courses you can register for. So we have a special bundle pack right now. It's still going on for a couple more days. Classes are regularly $130 a piece, and you can still have access to the full class even after the course is over with. We have a special bundle right now. You can register for both classes for only $70. You can register for both classes for only $70. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And then Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, we do that on Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content, and you can watch from around the world as well. We'll post a link here for the course bundle, and the information is right on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Mental health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African-American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Kwanzaa is coming, and the KwanzaaShop.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs. Order your Kwanzaa set today, which includes a kinara, candles, a mat, a cup, the African American flag, and a basket. Visit the KwanzaaShop.com, the KwanzaaShop.com. They have kinara sets, which include a candle holder, candles, a mat, and a cup. Kwanzaa is December 26th through January the 1st. Add the early bird discount code for 10% off your order placed before November 28th. Visit the KwanzaaShop.com and place your order today. The KwanzaaShop.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs to celebrate this African American Pan-African holiday. The KwanzaaShop.com.
Soul in Motion, celebrating 38 years in the arts. This energetic ensemble of dancers and drummers was started by percussionist Michael Friend and is led by choreographer Associate Director Pam Lassiter. Based in the Washington, D.C. area, Soul in Motion is now accepting bookings for Black History Month, Juneteenth, and summer festivals in 2022. Soul in Motion is also available for more intimate events like naming ceremonies and weddings. To find out more or to book your date, call 240-452-1349 or send an email to info@soulinmotion.org. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Soul in Motion, celebrating our history, our culture, our future. Soul in Motion. Theater, African dance, and drumming since 1984.
Black on Purpose Television Network. Yes, Black on Purpose Television Network. All black, all positive, all the time. The largest black-owned streaming television network in the world. Bringing our people together worldwide. Controlling our messages, our story, our way. Black TV the way it should be. Black music, Black history, and more. 30-plus channels, thousands of shows. Black on Purpose Television Network. Subscribe now.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson, President and CEO of JCW Computer Consulting, LLC, a technology implementation firm with over 20 years of satisfying customers. We offer a full spectrum of industry top-tier branded services. We are an authorized partner or reseller for Lenovo, Zoom, T-Mobile, Microsoft 365 and Surface tablets, Google Workspace, Acer, Asus, Samsung, PCmatic security software, and many more. Our online store features laptops, Chromebooks, computers, printers, accessories, and software. Businesses, take advantage of our free 1-hour Zoom tech consultation and know we offer top nationwide high-speed internet service providers, voice over IP, and cellular phone services. Home users, don't miss our current in-stock Chromebook inventory.